Can you summarize for me just what role you see content playing in the modern marketing mix today?
I think that in this day and age, marketing is content. Content is marketing. When we look, particularly on the digital side of the fence, when we look at how consumers are adapting their own browsing behavior in order to minimize their exposure to ads, the rise of ad blockers, the rise of increasingly stringent privacy controls, what we're seeing is that the ability for banner advertising to reach that target demographic is decreasing dramatically. And so content steps into the breach. So, what's been noticeable for a few years now is banner blindness. You can no longer jam a banner in front of somebody and expect a reaction, whereas content allows you the opportunity for relevance, to be very targeted, to really speak directly, almost in a two-way conversational manner, to your audience, which you don't get from traditional push marketing. So the role of content in marketing, content is increasingly taking over marketing, I would suggest.
That's an interesting perspective. I think looking at content marketing, you've got content development, which is a challenge in itself. But generally that plays to the expertise of the brand, which means it's manageable. One of the biggest challenges, though, lies with positioning and the promotion of content. What do you think the most effective way is for a marketing team to build awareness and go about being found?
I think actually that's the most difficult piece. It's this fervent hope that if you build it, they will come, and it's just not the case. And I think that certainly in my experience, time plays a key role here. So, as you said, content development is challenging in itself. But I think the more that pushes organizations towards authenticity, so in telling their own actual story rather than trying to craft something that they feel is relevant to a particular audience, becomes easier. However, you still have the challenge of having created my content now, how do I get it read? And I think that this is where technology plays the biggest role. I think that if you expect to be able to hand roll your audience, to be able to handcraft it just like that, then you're in for a great deal of disappointment and wasted energy. What I think you're increasingly obliged to do as a digital marketer is to identify the technologies that will allow you to find your audience based on things like lookalike marketing, based on algorithm-driven identification of where your audience lies and their behavior and the spheres of influence that they interact with.
So there's an interesting concept to touch on there, which is the idea that brands need to work on telling their own stories through content. But one of the other challenges that they often face revolves on that balance between quantity and quality of content. Where do you think the emphasis should lie?
I think that it's very difficult to find that sort of catch-all sweet spot. If you look at, for instance, an investment bank and compare it to a small, nimble retail bank, the types of content they're putting out are completely different. The frequency of the content they're putting out is completely different. But the incremental value that they potentially receive back from a lead generated by a piece of content is also completely different. So I think it depends very much on the nature of your business and the nature of your audience. We have, even ourselves, we have rules about the amount of content that we're willing to put out through various digital channels to reach our audience. Based on what we perceive to be their propensity to consume this, but it changes over time and changes over relevance, and it changes as your narrative arc changes.
That tipping point between quantity and quality of content is an interesting one, I think, and it leads into a larger question about the kinds of mistakes that you've seen and encountered, or perhaps actually experienced, when it comes to content marketing. What do you think some of the common mistakes are when it comes to driving content to market?
In my view, the most common mistake would be blind optimism. this assumption that no matter how wonderful your content, that it will be consumed, that it will find its audience, that people will consume it and they'll come back for more. I just don't think that applies these days. When you look at the sheer volume of content that any demographic, if you look at the sheer volume of content that any demographic online is exposed to now, your content has a very, very short lifespan. So I think that hope that you create something, you put it out, and that it gains traction, and that is enough, and that will allow you yourself as a marketer to do your audience discovery, it's just not valid. I think there is a really significant lead time now to really gaining momentum and traction and starting to grab that share of voice through your content marketing.
So to ask a slightly more expansive question, I'm going to spring this one on you, so bear with me. How do you think an organization can go about differentiating their content? Because, as you said, there's a wealth of content already out there. There's an argument to be made that in any particular field you can think of, that if there's something to be said, it probably already has been.
It has to be authenticity. Every single brand has a clear brand identity, even if it's consciously articulated or not. And that is your point of differentiation. If the content it's the means of reaching the audience. It's not the end goal in itself. And so, if you look at why you as an organization would attract a customer compared to your competitor, it's no different. That should be coming through within the content itself. So again, it's the authenticity, it's the story that you're telling.
Now, you mentioned previously lookalike campaigns. It's an interesting term and one that captures a great deal of the kind of personalization that marketing is so capable of today and that content can both facilitate and cater to. What exactly is a lookalike campaign? Can you summarize that for me?
So a lookalike campaign is one where you identify a successful transaction. So you take someone that has responded to your marketing, has been through your website and has converted. Take them, and then you find people who look like them behaviorally outside in the big wide world, and you market to them in the expectation that because they tick the behavioral boxes, they're going to behave in a similar manner to people who convert.
Now, we've covered content creation, content development, promotion, using techniques like lookalike marketing to develop penetration, understanding your customers, the analytics behind them. How on earth, in your opinion, does an overwhelmed marketer find the time to juggle all of those conflicting responsibilities on top of the expectations of what they're currently doing?
Oh, it has to be automation. There's no other way around it. The beauty of digital is that everything can be measured. But the curse of digital is also that everything can be measured. So you could find yourself very, very quickly tied up in analysis paralysis. In my view, the only way that you can really make an impact in this space is through automation. It is through things like lookalike marketing, where you can identify one conversion, and then you can find a significant number of individuals who have the same behavior, or traditional marketing automation, where a series of activities kick off or are triggered based on behavior. I think that unless you're blessed with a team of 100 analysts, which organizations are, there are digital marketing capabilities out there that are stocked to the rafters with analysts. Lucky them. Most of us, absolutely not. Most of us feel, I would suggest, we probably feel really quite burdened by the promise of the measurability of digital, when the reality is that we cannot measure stuff. There's not enough time in the day.
Finally then, what's your view on the modern mix of marketing channels? I mean, there's often a view that traditional outbound marketing channels and the more digitally oriented inbound ones are mutually exclusive. How do you feel that they fit together into marketing today?
I think the marketing mix is still incredibly important. Firstly, I think there is, you have to assume that your audience that you're reaching through digital marketing is also going to be exposed to your non-digital marketing, whether it's radio, outdoors, press, your traditional offline stuff. The difference with the offline stuff is, of course, that you have no way of measuring this. I feel very envious of my PR colleagues who basically don't have to put a measurement behind anything. But we've run campaigns with a heavy PR element, and we've run campaigns without a PR element, and certainly in my experience it's been very clear that PR outdoors have a very, very significant impact on the overall effectiveness of your marketing campaign. So what content marketing, what inbound marketing has done is created a new set of tactics and new levels of efficiency and measurability. But that hasn't made your outdoor activity irrelevant, or your radio irrelevant, your press marketing relevant.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation in September. Thank you for your time, Daniel.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.